Hey everybody!
Yay, we're back!
Welcome back. We are
The K and K twins.
I'm Kathleen.
I'm Kim.
So we're here to talk more about codependency. Last time we talked about some causes of codependency. We talked about the difference between
a functional and a dysfunctional family.
So we're going to explore a little bit more just to really get a good grasp on what codependency is, because it was hard for us to really grasp all the finer nuances of that. So the main thing to remember is that as a child, you had basic needs that went unmet by those that were supposed to be meeting those needs. Typically a parent, okay?
Not their fault, not malicious.
Right? Just
they did the best
incapable for whatever reason. There may have been.
We all did the best we could.
Right? I mean,
because some of us have created codependent humans
exactly.
as well.
Exactly. So codependents long to be loved. That's just a basic human need. Okay? God created us that way. We desperately want to create a sense of worth and value and specialness. Everybody wants to feel like they're special, and every child should feel like they're special, right? So those are normal desires. Those are things that every person should have in their basic relationships. This is how we figure out, this is foundational. This is the foundation of who we are, is when you're a child and you look to cues from your parents and those your siblings to get your identity, to understand who you are, right? If you don't have a solid foundation, you're just going to kind of flounder and float through the world. You just are. So unfortunately, there is a cycle of codependency that between a dysfunctional dependent person and the codependent person. It is often called a circle dance because it's the same steps over and over and over, which are so harmful and hurtful and damaging, but we don't know how to change it. We don't know how to fix it.
Same ridiculous outcome, and then we can't figure out why we argue over the same things over and over again.
Same arguments over and over. Maybe with your spouse. Same thing over and over.
It's a dance, and unhealthy behaviors create unhealthy patterns. Healthy behaviors create healthy patterns. So those of us who are codependent have learned these unhealthy behaviors, and we respond in an unhealthy way. We hear things in an unhealthy way, and we get triggered. Which we'll talk about a whole nother time, but we have.
It's a vicious cycle. It really is a vicious cycle. It's hard to break that dance. It's hard to fix it. We don't know what to do to fix it,
and it feels normal.
Yes.
We've been doing it so long. That's why it's hard to fix it.
It's comfortable. It feels comfortable. We don't like to be uncomfortable, right?
And we
talked about
need
this last
to be
time.
uncomfortable to change.
There has to be discomfort in order to change. You can't change without it, right? So it feels comfortable to be in the same pattern. So what happens typically for codependents and dysfunctional dependents is you gravitate towards those people that will recreate that dysfunctional dynamic that you were raised in.
That's why you marry somebody like your father.
Exactly.
Or you marry somebody like your mother, because that feels comfortable and that feels normal.
It feels normal. And it's comfortable. So even though it's abusive, like if you had an alcoholic father who was abusive, you could marry an alcoholic who's also abusive, right? So because it's so comfortable and familiar, even though it's so painful
and wrong and unhealthy.
Exactly. So you owe it to yourself and to your children and whoever to break that cycle.
It's enough even for ourselves,
right?
Even if we didn't have children, it's enough for you to grab that healing and wholeness,
right?
You enough are worthy.
So really, codependents are harmed by a dysfunctional dependence behavior. So a dependent person could be your parent, it could be your spouse or your partner, maybe an employer, maybe a friend. Okay, it could be an unhealthy relationship.
We try to surround ourselves with these unhealthy people.
And sometimes it's narcissists. Narcissists tend to gravitate towards codependence because they can control them, and codependents have this need to fix and rescue, which narcissists sort of prey on and manipulate to get that person to do what they want, right? So the dysfunctional person may be a narcissist. They could be an addict. They could be physically, verbally, emotionally, or sexually abusive. They may be a workaholic. They may be emotionally distant. They may be unable to express their emotions or their love or affection. They may be indifferent to your partner or your child. That's so painful. They may display any number of dysfunctional behaviors. But that's the dysfunctional dependent that the codependent person tends to circle around, and you do this dance over and over.
Yep. Trying to meet every need and make sure they're okay and take care of them and help.
We're going to help them.
Thing.
We're going to help them. We're going to fix them.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that like every fairy tale where the woman goes in and rescues?
Yes.
Well, we'll talk about this.
Or
It's like
Charming.
the whole Beauty and the Beast thing.
Right.
Every girl thinks she's going to make the Beast into a prince.
Right.
We are not going to make the Beast into a prince. He's a beast.
Right?
So,
there's a reason they call them bad boys, because they're bad for you.
Yes.
Because they're wounded.
You cannot
they're
change them.
wounded.
You cannot love anybody enough to change. We all have to want our own change. And that's the work that we're doing for ourselves, and that we want to inspire and encourage you to do, because it's worth it.
Exactly.
The freedom on the other side is worth it.
It is. It is. It's worth being free, breaking free of those chains. So, so those harmed by a dysfunctional dependent person's behavior we're driven by an out of balance sense of responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
Again, fix, rescue, help that dependent person.
They couldn't do anything if we didn't fix everything for them.
Right?
I mean, how are they going to survive if we don't go and solve every problem?
But this creates, we have this need to be needed.
Yes.
We want to be needed. So we gravitate to people who seem broken and need to be fixed, right? Not realizing that we're broken. Our need to fix is our own wound, right?
And that our need to help them is actually crippling them.
Yes, exactly.
They actually need to be able to be self-sufficient. We do this with our children a lot.
Enabling.
Enabling. That's exactly what that is. So, but we're crippling them, and we're creating these codependent people,
right?
Because we're enabling, and because we want to help, and because we desire to feel needed, which this is going to hurt when I say it, is selfish.
Right?
It is selfish when we put our own desire to be needed ahead of actually creating functional human beings.
And the health of your child.
Or a spouse.
A spouse.
Because then what happens is we've created these dependent, emotionally dependent, financially dependent, however dependent spouses, and then we're really mad.
Yep.
Because we're tired and exhausted.
Angry and resentful, but we created it.
We created it. That one hurts.
That hurts. It hurts,
but
people, but it's real.
I've done it.
It is.
We have done it. Years.
Yep, we do that. We need to be needed, so we create that need, and then we try to fix it. And then when they do get too needy, and they're just consuming all of our time and energy, we get angry and resentful. So it's this vicious circle, like we said.
Doesn't that sound crazy?
Crazy dynamic, right?
It's crazy making.
So another book, another resource that was helpful to us as we went through this journey, and it actually followed fairly well the chapters in the Untangling Relationships book. It's called Women Who Love Too Much. And this can apply to men too.
Yeah.
But Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood.
This is what it looks like.
Go ahead and move it closer up there.
Closer?
Can you see it? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
There you go. That's it.
So Women Who Love Too Much, and it's fantastic because it's really case study after case study. This woman was a counselor, and she began to just really understand this issue of codependency by doing case studies with these women. But what's really interesting is towards the end of the book, she did interviews with the men that these women were codependent with, and understanding their perspective, their family of origin, how they got wounded, how they became narcissistic and manipulative, and those kinds of things. It was super, it was very interesting dynamic to see how they view their codependent partner. So it was really interesting.
And that the manipulation and the control was very deliberate. It wasn't by accident. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Which
interesting.
Was shocking. But
that may not always be the case.
Right.
But it can be. It really can be. So
I think on some level too.
Yeah. Because I think, because narcissists can tend to be somewhat, sociopathic in terms of just only being concerned with their own needs and not really being able to empathize.
Lacking empathy.
Right. And understand others. So, so the dependent person either consciously or unconsciously deprives the codependent person of love and the attention that they need. So we're being deprived of what we so desperately need. I can't believe it. So this causes the codependent person to seek affirmation.
Remember, we're not tech savvy.
So if
this guy's in the middle of it, it's because the battery's low. We're just going to tell you now. We're just going to finish really fast now. Okay.
Good Lord have mercy. Okay. So this really So we're not getting what we need.
Yeah.
We're not getting what we need. So if you've been in a relationship with someone, especially a spouse or a partner, where you feel like you have this rational discussion or argument, and you know that what you're saying is totally fair, is totally right, is totally rational, and the other person twists it, gaslights you and makes you think you're crazy, and they twist everything, that's a codependent circumstance.
Yes. Or the
right
silent treatment. They give you the silent treatment, and that just breaks your spirit.
Right? Or angry.
That's a
they
way
blow
to
up.
control you.
Right? There's ways that you can control in a marriage relationship.
I just had a thought.
Tell me.
Really good example of what it looks like to control somebody and to be controlled. So the person who is controlling in the beginning, we'll call him the narcissist, right? Who is giving you the silent treatment because you did something he doesn't like, right? So you in turn, so he's controlling you. You in turn try to control him. By now your behavior is placating and you're trying to help everything feel better and you're apologizing when you didn't do anything wrong.
Right?
But
trying to keep the peace. We're the peacemakers.
Tiptoeing. That's in an effort to control him. So you're being controlled and you're trying to control, which sounds crazy.
Perfect example. Yes.
But that's what we do.
That's what we do. We try not to rock the boat. We want to keep the peace. We don't want them to blow up.
Oh my gosh, we apologize. We're so sorry.
Even when it's not our fault. When they've acted bad, they hurt us. We call them out,
Their
which is normal.
Was bad. Yes.
And they get angry and turn it back on us, and we find ourselves apologizing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because now they made us feel like shit.
Right? Right? So, yeah, it's craziness.
But that's what we do.
That's
so
exactly
when we have trouble kind of understanding that codependent people are controlled and are controlling, that's one example of what that looks like.
Right.
Which is really kind of hard. It was hard for me to wrap my brain around in the beginning, but that's an example.
That's a great example because we're going to give you some other kind of examples and definitions of codependency. So, codependency is a bondage to pleasing someone. You've heard the term people pleaser. We take that to the nth degree.
We are people pleasers.
On steroids, I like to say, yes. It's being controlled by someone while trying to control that person. That's what she just referred to, right? So that person, when you're in a relationship, there are healthy ways to communicate.
Yeah.
And there are things that will shut down communication.
Yes.
Okay. Now, typically for women, some of the things that we do to shut down communication is we'll cry, we'll pout, we will give our silent treatment. Men do this too, the silent treatment, or we get angry and we yell and then we attack.
Yes.
And then we bring up all the other things instead of dealing with the issue that was,
that was
really
stuff.
Exactly. What does that do? It shuts down communication.
Yeah.
And then that person feels like they're not being heard.
They're not being heard.
They're opening their heart to say, listen, this hurts me. What you're doing is wrong. And you crush them.
And they don't have the freedom to say that.
It stifles any other communication, and the relationship is, every time you do that, it chips away at that foundation. It chips away until it just starts crumbling, and the relationship is on the downward.
That's such a miserable cycle. Oh my gosh.
It is.
When you're not in it anymore, you forget what that feels like. Just you talking about it.
Right? You remember that?
Like I can feel it physically in my body, and it makes me so grateful that I don't live that way anymore.
Right? Thank God.
You don't have to live that way.
Yep.
You've been doing it long enough.
Right? So the next thing is, and it kind of segues with that, it's feeling dependent. A codependent feels like they have to make other people happy. Yeah. It's another people pleasing, but often it's at the expense of our own happiness. Like we feel guilty if we don't help them, if we say no to something. We tend to get coerced and manipulated, or just we don't set boundaries. So it might not be the person's trying to manipulate, they're just asking you, hey, can you do this? You don't want to. You have so many other things on your plate. You need time with your family, your kids, but you can't say no, and then you're angry and resentful.
You become the martyr.
And that person would have been fine if you'd have just said no, but you were the martyr. You became the martyr. So don't try to make someone happy at your own expense.
And one of the ways that manifested itself in my life was I can now sit back and look at the years of parenting, and I disappeared. Like I didn't exist anymore. I became his wife and their mom, and I no longer had an identity of my own.
Right.
I didn't know what I did for enjoyment. I didn't do anything for enjoyment. Everything was about everybody else, and I lost myself. And I thought I was being a great wife and being a great mom, but that's part of that lack
we don't even
of
know
balance.
who we are. We don't know what we like.
Didn't know who I literally didn't know what I liked.
What I even liked.
I had to figure out like what my hobbies were. I had no hobbies, and I had to find myself again, and it took years, and it was very, very painful. So many of us as women and as moms and as wives do that to ourselves, and then we get into a certain place in our life, you know, we'll call it midlife, and it can be in your 30s, it can be in your 40s, 50s, we'll call it whatever you want. But we wake up and we don't know who we are.
We've lost ourselves.
That is also codependent behavior.
It is. If you've ever seen that movie Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, that's a perfect example. She morphs into whoever she thinks the man that she's with wants her to be. But she doesn't even know what she really likes. So she embarks on this journey to figure out who she is, right? So anywho, so if you feel guilty anytime you say no, you're probably codependent, right?
And by the way, you're normal, but you don't have to live that way.
Right?
A lot of us feel that way. But that's
also,
that's not healthy.
Codependency is feeling guilty when everything is not done just right. That's that perfectionism. If it's not perfect.
Oh, we're bad about
that. It just,
We beat ourselves up.
We do. Either that or we give up and don't even try, right? Because if we can't do it perfect, we don't want to do it, right? We just give up. So here's the crux, guys. Codependency is trying to make a sick person well, but ending up sick instead. So we end up sick ourselves.
Yeah.
Think about that. Sit on that for a minute.
We can't sit because we have limited
You're right.
time.
He's running out.
So we can't sit on, but you can sit on.
Y'all sit on that.
Y'all sit on that.
So codependency is an identity problem. We do say that. It's an identity problem. It's a behavioral problem. It's a relationship problem. Okay?
In every relationship.
Right?
By the way.
Exactly.
Because it all starts with us.
Right?
Because we can't function in a healthy way. Everybody around us, we interact with in an unhealthy way.
Right? So we just want to help you understand the codependent's driving need to control and rescue and fix other people while identifying the behaviors that come from a person's deep needs going unmet. And that's really where this all comes. So you're going to hear us say that a lot. We're going to repeat that. So when our needs are unmet throughout life, whether it's family of origin, if it's our marriage, whatever, we're going to have these difficult, tangled relationships with people who should be meeting some of those needs but aren't.
Right.
And those are realistic expectations in those relationships. There are expectations in a marriage relationship that certain things are going to happen or certain things are, expected that don't happen, right? So, So we're going to talk a little bit more about that too. So basically just remember, codependents are deeply wounded people who have found less than ideal ways to cope with their dysfunction. Yeah. Okay, because we're dysfunctional too.
We have these coping mechanisms, but that doesn't mean we have to stay there.
Right? So we give up our own ideas, our own identity,
our own power. That's what we give up, our power.
Our own emotions, right? We don't know who we are. So instead, we force ourselves to act and feel in ways that please other people because we so desperately want to be loved and accepted. So we pretend, and it's not really us.
And we think it's real, though. We don't think it's pretending.
Right?
We really
do. Because we're trying to please that person.
I became who
they think want you to be.
They wanted me to be. Whoever they is. You know
right?
what I mean? It's not even. It happens so much, and that's one of the things I have found in my life is that what's funny is I'll kind of, and I watch myself doing this. I'll kind of mold into the person I'm with. So Kathleen and I work together, and she'll get kind of like spazzy, start talking fast, and then all of a sudden I'm talking fast, and I'm like, whoa.
You need to slow it down, take a breath. I don't need to
take that on. But that's part of my codependent thing, is I take on other people's stuff because I can identify with them, and then they feel so good because I can relate to them, which makes me feel good because I've made them happy. But my job is not to make you happy. Yeah. My job is to be me.
Right.
If you want to be spazzy, you can do that all by yourself.
Right? Exactly. We don't have to get sucked in to those other unhealthy behaviors. And we do, because we want to make that other person happy. Yeah. And that's not our job.
It's not.
It's not our job always. So one of the other things that is important to know and remember is that codependence, living in a dysfunctional relationship, distorts our reality so that we start to believe that good is bad and what is unhealthy seems normal. So in those dysfunctional relationships, unhealthy seems normal to us. We have no objectivity.
Yes.
We have no objectivity.
We do not see ourselves clearly. What that means is we don't see ourselves clearly.
Right.
By the way, we think we see ourselves very
we
clearly.
do. We think we do. If you would have said
not.
this to us a couple years ago, we'd say, oh, no, I'm very introspective.
Yeah.
I know myself very well.
Yes. And by the way, that's going to be our next podcast, is about objectivity and how we lack it, because it's so...
It's critical that we understand this.
It's revolutionary.
It is.
It is. It is critical,
right?
Absolutely.
But this lack of reality, lack of objectivity, this is all part of the sickness. This is all part of codependency. We have a distorted perception of reality. We do. If you're codependent, you do. We'll deny it all day long, but it's true.
We're wrong.
So, yeah. So the deep hurt of these unmet needs for love and acceptance either numbs you or it drives you. It drives you to accomplishments, the perfectionism, the workaholism, whatever it is. It drives us to please people and win their approval.
Yeah.
So we become people pleasers on steroids, like I said previously. That just doesn't feel good. But there is hope for change.
Yeah.
And we're here to tell you that there really is hope. And we're
living proof of it.
We are. We really are, because we have had insights and revelations and just crazy light bulb moments where we have realized, oh my gosh, this is not real. This is not reality. This is truth, and this isn't truth. And it's just been amazing.
And that's why we wanted to bring you along on the ride, because when you can get that kind of healing and when you can get that kind of freedom, you literally want anybody who's willing to do the work to come with you. Right?
Absolutely.
Because we've lived this way for way too many years.
Right? It took a long time.
Yeah. But we don't have to continue to live that way.
Right.
And that's the freedom. So next time we're going to talk about objectivity.
But let me say this really quick.
Okay.
It took us a long time to develop these codependency behaviors.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's going to take us a long time to recover.
Some grace.
Yes.
Because these patterns that you've had for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years
almost
are very, very deeply ingrained. So give yourself time. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Bring somebody alongside you who will speak the truth to you and say, you know, that's a codependent behavior you're having, and be willing to hear it.
Be willing to hear it.
Because it does. You didn't get this way in a week, in a month, in a year. You're not going to heal in a week, a month, or a year.
Right.
But you will see these changes, and and celebrate them.
Incremental.
Celebrate them. And we do that a lot. Yeah. We're like, we point it out to each other, because that's another thing. You don't see, because we don't see ourselves clearly. When we're doing well, we also don't see that clearly.
Right.
So bring somebody alongside you who can celebrate with you.
Right? Because I'll say, Kim, do you hear what you're saying right now? Do you hear what a healthy response that is? Think about how we would have reacted in the past. What growth?
Yes.
What change?
It's
right?
So
and we
huge.
get super excited about it. And we do. We celebrate it all the time. We're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Do you see how you've changed?
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
And we want that for you.
It's amazing. And so it really helps to have at least one person that you feel emotionally safe with, that you can walk this journey with, that you can be real. I mean, Kim has seen me good, bad, and ugly. I mean,
she's seen me good, bad,
she's
and
seen
ugly.
She knows everything. She knows all my secrets. I'm saying we know all our stuff. So it's such a blessing and a gift to have that, and we're really blessed to work together because
that's unusual
even in that environment where we can still, like, I'll be like, Kim, come in my office. I need to verbally process this with you. And we do. But
it all started with that book and getting together with a group, and not everybody stayed, and that's okay.
Right.
But if you don't know where to start and you don't know who to start with, get the book.
Right.
Publicize it somewhere so that you can put a group together and start your own group.
Right.
Start your own journey to healing, and we're going to come alongside you. We're going to be there for you.
We're going to be there. We've kind of pioneered, we've kind of blazed the trail, so to speak, a little bit here. So we're so happy that if we can help even one person, it's going to be so worth it. It's going to be an honor and a privilege to share what we have learned with others, because it is absolutely life-changing. You're going to hear us say that all the time.
Because it really is.
It is. It's just life-changing, and it's just revolutionary.
Yeah.
It really is. So we're excited.
So hold on.
Yes.
Stick with us.
Stay with us. It's gonna get better.
It's okay.
It's gonna get rough.
It's okay.
It's gonna get rough before it gets
You're gonna
better.
be fine.
Because you will. We'll walk through this with you because
Yeah.
it is scary and it's hard. It's not easy. I'm not
And
gonna
that's okay.
sugarcoat
You're
it.
gonna have some uncomfortable moments.
Yep.
But that's why we are having these uncomfortable conversations with you, because we've had these uncomfortable conversations with each other.
Right.
And it won't just be on codependency. We have uncomfortable conversations about all kinds of things. About race, about relationships, about our
narcissists.
Yes.
About,
I mean, just so much. So we're going to have lots of uncomfortable conversations. And if you have something you want us to discuss, we're going to find a way for you to communicate that to us, because we'll start a discussion.
We will.
And we will have
great discussions.
We'll have an uncomfortable conversation.
We're like, we have these profound discussions
We really
with
do.
ourselves. We're like, oh man, we
is
should
amazing.
take this.
We're like, stop talking. Yeah. So we are going to stop talking
yeah,
now, because
we are.
our battery's going to
Yes,
run out,
our battery's
so.
going to die. So we're going to see you next time.
Yes.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for joining us. We're so happy to be on this journey with you. Blessings, everyone.